Why? Because when white people came to Africa, they came showing themselves as superior to the black people, digging out things that black people taught them. You know, what we don't have in our history books is that the civilization we have in Europe today was brought to us by black people. Even black people don't know that. Even many black people don't know that. They don't know that the Moors, they were West Africans and North Africans and Central Africans that came to Europe and ruled Spain. They brought civilization to us. They showed us how to use soap, how to be clean, how to behave like a decent human being, you know. All these things we didn't know that before the Moors brought civilization to Spain. Did you know that the Moors ruled in Spain for 700 years? Where is that in our history books? It's nowhere to be found. Because why? If you are giving black people that power of having once ruled over white people, wouldn't black people start like kind of questioning, oh, we were once at that point of having such a power in a white man's country over white people, and where are we now? So of course they have to hide that history from you people, because knowing your true history is knowing your true power, and knowing your true power means you will break out from that system of racism as much as you can, because you can't. If white people will not stop racism, black people cannot.
All right, so as we heard this European woman just tell us that there's a huge history that's been left out from the world. And we know that certain nations have been written out of history, whether it be on accident or through different events, through drastic events, or just through straight out the hand of another nation working as hard as they possibly can to make sure this nation never makes it to the pages of history or never remains in the pages of history. And that's what's happened to black Americans. Their true history has been completely taken right from them. They have been robbed of it. They've had it stolen from them. And as we've heard this this lady say, this Caucasian woman, I'm not sure where her accent is, but she sounds Western European, from those areas where they did run us out and they did lie to us about our history. She tells us that Europe, wholly so, had a huge history. Now, we've read the quote from Benjamin Franklin, and I'll put it up on here so we can see it again. But it goes into Benjamin Franklin describing humanity and humankind, an observation of mankind. And this was in the 1730s, and he goes through describing what the world looks like and how him and his white brethren are working on making the world, giving the world a lighter image, and how he's working on colonizing the planet and making the planet more white and more of a fitting image for the gods that they worship. Now, Benjamin Franklin described Europe as pretty much being, especially Germany, as being wholly so tawny and swarthy. Now, when you think of Germany today, you don't think of any black history. You don't think there's any black people over there. And if there was, it was in very small, tiny amounts, and they were just descendants of slaves. But Benjamin Franklin in the 1700s tells us that Germany is wholly so tawny. We hear about the Moors like this lady was talking about. We all heard about the Moors. If you're black, we know about the Moors. The Moors were written out of Spain's history, out of Spanish history, and in many other parts of Europe's history. Now, this is why you'll go to a museum and they'll show you a picture of a black person, a painting of a black person from the 1600s, 1500s, decked out in gold, decked out in a king's attire, looking like royalty, but underneath it, I'll have a plaque saying, "This is John the Slave." This is a lie. They tell you this to control the narrative. They have to keep the narrative alive that black people did nothing, that they were nothing but slaves, and they came nothing but slavery. They've never had anything good. They've never had any recorded history, because that means if we've had recorded history, the people that enslaved us have to still be hanging on to that recorded history. And so white people don't want us looking back at them and asking too many questions about where we came from. They don't want this fib that they told us, this nice little neat story where we stay subservient, to come raveling apart. So I have a book that's sitting right in front of me. It's titled The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. Everything in it is true. It's 100% fact. No lies. It's not Afrocentric. It's not blackwash history. It's actually books that cost a lot of money to prove whitewashed history. Now, let's just go through some of this. Celtic, an ancient black race of Europe, a Moorish people. Black, very dark, a Moor. Alpin, a Negro, a black Negro or Moor. The word Alpin goes back farther than recorded history. The name Alpin or Alpine has recently inherited new definitions. That's right. So we're also look up Europe's coat of arms. This is a common one too. There's many black historic channels that are popping up, and this is why white people are rushing to play damage control and rushing to try to reassure the lies, and make sure the lies are all strong enough to withstand this new barrage that's coming towards Caucasians' history, which we all know is whitewashed. I'm an artist. I was told by 2 art teachers in 2 different schools that I went to that you can't trust the Renaissance period, because during the Renaissance, they were busy whitewashing a bunch of paintings of famous people, inventors, of historic figures, and I was told this by a Caucasian man. So there's many white historians that know the truth, that know that a lot of people that they place in front of us that they tell us are Caucasian, or groups of people that they've told us are Caucasian, are not. It's because if Ireland, let's do Ireland for example, because Ireland is a huge case of fraud, and a lot of their history is fraudulent. So let's just go with Ireland for example. If the Irish told us that there was a black section of people in their country, and they told us the truth about which parts of their history were actually black men, we would question them as to where are they now and why aren't they still there, and why haven't you guys told us this before? They've stolen all of Ireland. They stolen the British Isles. There's Cromwell. What's his first name? Cromwell was very busy chasing black people out of Ireland and out of the British Isles and the Iberian Peninsula, and pushing them back down towards North Africa and West Africa to eventually be sent over to the Americas in the slave trade. And they don't want to talk about this history. They don't want to talk about any of this stuff. All right, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anything right off the bat that I can just read off and just makes a great statement. All right, here's something that I could read from this book, because I brought it out and I want to make sure I can read some stuff from it that obtains to what this Caucasian woman is saying. And remember, there's a lot of Caucasians that are now coming out and telling on themselves. The book, The 13th Tribe, was written by a Caucasian man, lying, pretty much not telling the truth about lies that his brethren were talking about. Hey, black man, there's a group of my people out there that are lying about you, that have stolen your history and are now writing books to write you out of history and to lie about you entirely. I'm writing a book to say the opposite, to say no, that didn't happen. What happened to the man that wrote The 13th Tribe? A book that tells the truth on who the real people of God are and who the real Jews are. And if white people, he claims in this book, the book is called The 13th Tribe, that if white people are of the tribe of Judah, or of the 12 tribes of Israel, that means they must be a 13th hidden tribe, because never ever has there ever been any historic proof to show that they've been part of the Hebrew patriarchy, and that they're the descendants of any biblical figures. And what happened to him? What happened to him and his wife? They were found committed suicide in very suspicious ways. He was found hanging from a ceiling fan. I heard, or I think that's what the story is, that his husband, the man that wrote it, was found hanging, and his wife was apparently committed suicide by diving off their balcony of their apartment. So we know what happened to them, and let's just read what this book, Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles, says. History has proven Europe was once occupied by black-skinned people who brought the concept of religion, government, king, queen, agriculture, medicine, science, and fine arts to the continent. They established Europe's first royal dynasty and other great powerful institutions that exist to this day. In every European nation, there existed a royal family of African descent who proudly exhibited their noble status from the mere fact of having Moorish blood in the veins. The aristocratic black sovereignty over Europe appeared to have reached its peak from the Renaissance to the French Revolution. The French Revolution was them kicking out all the black people. The colored world has strategically controlled the highest echelons liaisons of every European society. Their dark complexion automatically guaranteed them Europe's highest privileges, whereas being white was just the opposite, causing much suffering, humiliation, and deprivation. This is why they go so hard in the paint on controlling us. This is why they came over to the Americas and they enslaved us so hard. This is why they fed our babies to alligators, because they know who was ruling over them at one time. These European cavemen, they know that they have the records. Although they won't come out and openly tell us of the records and show us the records, because that would give us a spirit of rebellion immediately. If white people came out and told black people their true history, we won't listen to a word they say. We won't listen to a word anybody says, and that will be a huge issue for the rest of these nations. They don't want to have to put us down a second time. They can't put us down a second time. So they need to keep us down after they got us down the first time, which is why they've given us a fake history. They don't call us who we really were. They call us black. They call us Negro. They have so many different titles for us. Everything but who we really are. Here it is. See, all praises to the Most High. I opened it right up and it's talking about the person I wasn't able to quite expound on fully right here in the next paragraph. The British Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell is pretty much Adolf Hitler for black people in Europe. And he is very responsible for a lot of our history being whitewashed and written out and us being chased out of Europe. The British Oliver Cromwell spent most of his life trying to break this stronghold which blacks firmly held over whites. He helped Ireland to become free of the harshness of black oppression. Wait a second. When you think of Ireland nowadays, you never think of black people. You think white people have always ruled over there. And the white people tell you they've always ruled over there. And there isn't any black history in Ireland or the British Isles. But Oliver Cromwell, this racist-ass man, spent his whole life trying to break the stronghold that blacks had over white people in the British Isles. And Ireland, specifically.